the world of Lan, a great war between the continents of Ebros and Elkesh is forcibly brought to an end by the Tempest, a cataclysmic storm that rages over the surrounding oceans. An uneasy peace has since been made, but over the last 2 centuries a cold war has frozen the hearts of many. The ice is brittle, and 4 adventurers must seek the hammer that can shatter that peace before someone else does. Welcome, dear viewer, to A Debt to a Friend, a homebrew campaign.
Something I find myself saying frequently on the D&D Beyond forums or any sort of Dungeons & Dragons forum is 70% of your problems can be solved by talking to your dungeon master, another 20% can be solved by reading the books, and the other 10% is just miscellaneous. Ask Jeremy Crawford. 0% are solved by putting a very piss poorly put together video up on YouTube and ruining your dungeon master's day, especially when they have all the authority to basically blow up the world. My DM and I have discussed some complaints that I had with the session, which was a lot of feedback of which was inconsistent and very hostile as well, unnecessarily so. So, like I say, it's over now, it's water under the bridge. I'm going to proceed to do a better session recap that I'm going to enjoy doing much, much better. The DM recaps what happened at the Temple of Volca. Having left the temple to camp outdoors, taking a long, well-deserved rest, and we tell what we're going to do. I work on Bonaparte's bolt thrower, a picture of which will be put up on screen for you. Which is a repeating shot infusion that I can make as an artificer. This repeating shot requires no ammunition or the loading property, meaning Cornelius can attack twice in a single turn if he has extra attack. It's also a +1 to attack and damage as well, so it is a magical crossbow as far as the mechanics are concerned. But I think flavor-wise, it's kind of just like it's a marvel of modern MacGyvering, and of course it does have a tactical stock. That's a bit of a running joke with Katusha's Commissar Katusha Lost Cars inventions. Takavrea is going to attune to the Hammer of Volca and try and meditate on what it is he has in his hands. Rakanar takes the final watch of the day, and or rather the morning, and he rolls a dirty 20 for his perception. Having been raised in the woodlands, he's a lot more in tune with the smells, sounds, and sights of nature. And he can smell decay on the wind, but he can't quite place where it's coming from. There is clearly something distinctly wrong about the smell, but he can't quite put his finger on it. The sun begins to rise, and Cornelius exits his tent shortly after Takavrea and looks to see there are no clouds in the sky. He stretches and sees light piercing through the leaves of the forest, hearing birds twittering as they perform aerobic shows, and smells like rain on the grass. He goes to Rakanar and smiles, nodding so not to wake the others, and they just sit, taking in the sights and sounds, just enjoying this brief window of companionable tranquility. I don't know if companionable is a word, but I like it. I like that one a lot. I made a point of writing that down. Slowly but surely, the rest of us wake. Well, I wake eventually, having not slept very well, having to get up quite early, and spending a night making my Tinker's Tools with the right tool for the job feature. So I spent an hour of uninterrupted work making those, and working on the bolt thrower as well, which I think it takes about an hour. So I continue to show. So I come out running out of my tent, like eyes bloodshot from the lack of sleep, going, "Look what I've made!" Talking excitably about winches, pulleys, cogs, and doohickeys. Takavrea joins us, having finished his prayer just outside of the camp. Earlier, the word "forge" kept repeating in his mind, in his dreams, and he looks upon the hammer. He doesn't quite fully understand what it means. He tries to reach into his mind, his faith, and the world beneath him. A slightly diminished feeling from the temple returns to him. His scales dance with static, and it runs down his arms to and fro from the hammer. He opens his eyes at the spot, and he notices that the grass and foliage have been singed as if being scorched by lightning. He opens his eyes at the spot. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, I've already said that. This is what happens when I go entirely off my notes. He opens his. I've done it again. He heard a voice.
The pact is set.
Is he replaying his memories, or did he actually hear it? It doesn't matter if he looks at his hammer it doesn't matter as he looks at his hammer rationally, and how he can imbue his radiance with the warhammer. We consider our next move. Rakanar doesn't tell us about the stench, but he now knows it's coming from the forest. We decide to go to the forest, and so... Right, because we were originally going to go to Oxglen, but Rakanar felt more at home with the forest, and I think we'd gone against one of his decisions earlier, and I was like, you know what? It's his turn to have, to make the main decision. So I thought, okay, fine. And then, look, we can always, there's nothing we actually need from Oxglen, or we don't have to hand in the quest immediately. And, one of the benefits of D&D versus, video games is that the world is changing. It is a living, breathing world. The world doesn't wait for you to pick up quests. And our DM has made a point of that in Session 0. So we decided to go to the forest. Rakanar rolls a 13, so that's 10, his dice roll of 10 plus his 3 from survival, to find what appears to be a path. It's not paved over. Our DM describes how the Romans made roads. It's not really like a public footpath. It's quite simply a beast path, if anything. Really only clear to Rakanar, who has lived in the woods before. To the east is a river, and a prone form on this path, about 20 or so feet away. About 20 or so feet away, and it's not moving as far as Rakanar can see. The party then decides that we need to roll stealth. Rakanar rolls a 21 for his stealth, rather incredibly. I can't believe he's actually got a plus 3 to his stealth. I mean, then again, I suppose he would have high dexterity because that's where his AC comes from. So he rolls an 18 and he adds his 3 modifier. Cornelius rolls a 9. I myself roll an 8. I think Cornelius and I, we have a few 8s and 9s, and we keep alternating between the two. And so yes, we both have a +1 to our roll. So Cornelius rolls an 8 and I roll a 7. And then we add a +1 modifier. And Tack decides he ain't getting closer. He's going to stay right at the back. Because he's got common sense, you see. And he's sort of just sat there. He's going to light his pipe, whatever. Hopefully with the Lost Cause Laboratories patented lighter from the Heartseeker Inn. I need a name for that. Also, I need to give it a tactical stock as well. I need his pipe to have a tactical stock, so he can hold it and have it to his mouth as well, so that he doesn't lose his grip on it. That'd be neat. He can't be disarmed of his pipe. So moving swiftly on. The party moves forward, and we're about 10 feet away from it. Cornelius, Rakanar, and I are about 10 feet away from each other, trying to make sure that we've got some distance. So not to trigger any traps or get caught into a beam weapon or anything like that. Cornelius turns and senses something rustling and reacts to a vine, or what looks to be like a vine. So what I like about this is like, this is the use of passive perception. I think our DM took this from our Dungeon Master in the Lost Man of Phandelver game, where like passive perception is like your ability to look at things. It's the difference between like looking and seeing. Like passive perception is like looking, and active perception is seeing, or hearing and listening, or yeah, that's like passive versus active. And so like I like that Cornelius actually, with his higher passive perception because of his alert feat, is able to pick up on things sooner. And it's those things that you like. So maybe it's something worth investigating for him. So anyway, so he thinks it's just a whip, but actually it is some sort of like sentient creature. It's not just like a bit of vine just dangling down. It's actually sentient and is lurching towards us. These three vines basically leap out of the tree line and begin to attack. So we roll initiative. Cornelius rolls a whopping 25, given that I think he gets like a +5 to his initiative from the alert feat. The vine of Team 1 rolls a 15. Oh no, sorry, there's 4 vines. I do apologise, not 3. Rolls a 15. So Team 1 is Cornelius Vine. Secretary rolls a natural 20 +1. I think everyone but me rolled well, and yeah, our DM did say, look, what do you want me to do about that, you know? And yeah, of course as well, like our DM famously rolls poorly. Who's the guy from Critical Role who constantly rolls poorly? But yeah, it's like this guy who keeps rolling natural ones, and even when he changes dice, he still gets bad rolls. So yeah, so, yes, Rackenau rolls an 8. I roll 7 because of course I do. Yeah, and I wouldn't mind, like, you know, on this character, it's like, I wouldn't actually mind being first to initiative, just because of that whole like officer leader thing. Not really wanted to lead from the rear. I must remember that one of the players that was going to join our group, there was some advice that she said, like, you don't have to be like a leader as such. You can like have delegate duties to other people. So I thought, okay, I must talk to them again and actually get some more inspiration for my character. And then, of course, the Vine on Team 2 targets myself and Rackenau with an initiative of 4. So it's a surprise round, because only really Cornelius gets notices this, because he can't be surprised. And he warns us, dodging a rather lethargic whip towards the east of him, just trying to lash out and tap him. Another vine lashes out at me and instead of grapples my hat, and I try and reach up and wrest control and put it back onto my head, because this thing is expecting a taller target. A vine then snakes through the grass so it actually moves. It seems to like move or it's separate from the grass, or maybe it's underground. Its roots are underground, coming up like that. I don't know. And it's trying to whip at Cornelius, rolling with disadvantage to hit, and he still hits with a 16. The Vine's attack unfortunately manages to hit with a 16, even though he rolled 18 previously due to disadvantage. And Cornelius takes 3 points of bludgeoning damage. And now he must roll strength versus being grappled, but thankfully not restrained. He rolls a 3, 4 -1, and is grappled. One of his legs snared by the vines. And then the last vine to lash out at, tries to lash out at me, but it just simply can't find purchase on my squat frame. So in round 1, Cornelius, using Bonaparte's Bolt Thrower, rolls a 6, which is unfortunately the disadvantage he has to take attacking a target with a ranged weapon in melee combat, versus a natural 20 +2 to strike the one that's grappling him. And just as he's about to get this perfect shot, he's just a bit distracted by this pull on his leg and launches the bolt and reels it in So I should say the Bonaparte's bolt thrower is like, it's a bolt on some string that's attached to like a wheel, and he sort of like reels it in like a fishing line, which will come in handy later on. So yeah, so then it's now Takavir's turn, putting his pipe away, to like extinguishes it, puts it away, gets his hammer and shield out, and we see... I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it, all this in my notes. He holds up his hammer and launches his first Eldritch Blast. Unfortunately, rolling a natural 1. +6 though, which is quite an impressive modifier. That's really good, +6 stat. Hearing whispers in his head and being distracted by the static of the Warhammer. Because he's taken a level in Warlock now. His hammer being the Hexblade. So, just as he tries to get control, he rolls 10 damage to hit the opposing vine. So I think it's got multi-attack or something like that. I'm not quite sure how it works. As he's charged in to try and hit this vine. And he does like the maximum damage with his Warhammer. So then Cornelius vines try to hit him, and they miss, but they use a bonus action and instead try to strike Tack, who is also closed in, missing him as the shield just cuts on some of the tendrils, just slams down at the ground, and severs some of the tendrils. Rakanar's Great Axe rolls 14 to hit one of the vines, dealing 5 damage to its aloe vera-like gel, as aloe vera-like gel leaks out. He rolls an additional d6 and does 5 damage because of these aberrations. I think, like, I don't know the full effects of the axe. Our DM did say it, and I haven't looked at Tack's character sheet yet. Rakanar's character sheet, excuse me. But like basically, when he turns his Great Axe into a longsword, or I don't know if it's like a Great Axe or a Battle Axe, and it goes into a longsword. I don't know. Basically, it turns into like. It sheds like radiant damage to creatures within 5 feet, and yeah, they have to save like spell DC, and so it does that, and then you can use an attack with it. So yeah, so he does like 5 damage to the vines, and the edge of the blade glows bright, radiant hot, and burns the vine even further as he strikes with it. I take out my scimitar and slash away, rolling 15 to hit and doing 4 slashing damage. And so the vines then attack Rakanar and I, missing as they recoil from our attacks. In the second round of combat, Cornelius stabs the vine with his dagger. He hits for 19, but he only does 1 point of piercing damage, the lowest he could do with it. I say that as if like it's not obvious. Then again, you can roll 0 damage. It's like I have like a -1 to strength. So if I roll a 1 with my truncheon, I do 0 damage. Like, do I heal the enemy? I don't want to find out. So yes. So the team one, Takavir rolls with his Warhammer to hit, doing 12 damage, calling upon electrostatic energy to do 12 damage, maximum damage to the vine in front of him again. Some really good rolls from the team in this session. The Team 1 Vines start to attack Cornelius, rolling 13 to hit, and he takes 2 points of bludgeoning damage as they just battered him. And he must make yet another strength to save. He rolls 18, 19 -1, to resist the grappling effect as it tries to swing around his legs. The vine swipes him on the shin, and while it does sting a bit, it doesn't actually manage to grapple him as he leaps over the grabby tendril. With great uncharacteristic alacrity. I say uncharacteristic, like I don't actually know what his dexterity modifier. It must be pretty good though, or is it? Does he have like a +1 to dexterity? I can't remember. Anyway, so Rakanar rolls to attack with his Great Axe, seeing the effectiveness of chopping away at the enemy, and as well, it's his sort of like preferred weapon. And he rolls a natural 20 +6 to hit the vine in front of him. He does 16 damage total. I remember like later on in the session, we're just going, and another 2, and another 2, and another 2 on top of that. Oh, that's about 38 damage. Yeah, and so he slams his axe down and destroys the vine in front of him, so that's one down. And then he comes to me, smashes the pommel of his axe down on the ground, turning it into a greatsword. This will do 3 damage, so it seems as though Rakanar and the DM agreed that it will be a DC 13 radiant damage to anything within 5 feet, which I'm mercifully out of range of. Like, I have 23 hit points, but I do... I'm still very squishy. I have a 13 armor class now because I sacrificed 1 AC for Cornelius Bolt Thrower, but he is putting it to good use, as you will see. I'm very excited to talk about that. So I roll 9 to hit and successfully strike with 4 damage. Amazingly, just like again slashing with the scimitar. The vine responds to Rakanar's damage and swipes back at him and misses. In the third round of in the third round of combat, Cornelius rolls 9 to hit and does 2 piercing damage to the vine. So we're up 1 point of damage. We can keep going. Takavir rolls Toll the Dead Wisdom saving throw of 14 on one of the vines, which sadly rolls a 19 to defend against it. Cornelius Eastern vine rolls a 3 to hit and it misses him completely. Tax vine, however, rolls 23 to hit towards the west. And just bear with me. And oh yes, it rolls 23 to hit, and it does 4 points of bludgeoning damage. It tries to constrict around him. He rolls a strength of 11. The vine's constricting around his abdomen, but he brings his elbows together downwards and rips himself free of the grasp. I decided this time I'm going to... Oh, sorry, no, it's Rakanar's turn. Rakanar, with his weapon in its greatsword form, rolls 19 to hit, smashing down with 12 points of damage. And I'm going to finish off the vine that Rakanar had severely weakened with that 12 points of damage. I use 2 weapon fighting to strike with my scimitar and dagger, the first rolling 17 to hit to do 3 damage, the dagger rolling 9. It seems we're quite deserving of the 99 today, and deal 4 damage. I was thrust in, and I kill it, telling Rakanar to help me join the others. In the fourth and final round of combat, Cornelius rides the vine. He just sort of clambers atop it and tries to use the tendrils almost to steer it with an acrobatics check of 18, 17 plus 1. Smiling as he's doing it. He's having a really good time with that, and he uses Vicious Mockery to call the vine an overgrown weed. He then does 2 psychic damage on the vine's failed wisdom saving throw of 14. So not only is he riding it, he's also insulting it to death, as DM describes. Takafreya, seeing Cornelius atop the vine, rolls Toll the Dead to do 7 damage, trying not to strike at it while he's on top of it. The very cells of the vine, I love this description, the very cells of the vine get sapped into whatever netherworldly region the spell draws its power upon. The eastern vine this time now tries to attack me, missing. The vine that Cornelius is upon up on the west tries to throw him off, but like a bucking bronco, also that's how it rhymes with, he holds on by wrapping his hands around the tendrils, and he rolls 5 versus its 1. So when he rolled that 5, we're like, oh no, he's gonna get thrown, but no, the vine rolled a 1. Rakanar uses a reckless attack to give himself advantage on the next attack, while also receiving advantage on attacks against him, to roll a 19, the second roll being unnecessary. And because of this, he does 14 damage to the vine in front of us. He destroys it by switching back to the axe, which is more familiar to him, and cleanly cuts to it once, the vine falling dead. I do that. I hope that Rakanar's right-handed. Like, being left-handed, my thing. Anyway, so the vine falls dead. I slay the vine that Cornelius is atop of, but he fails with a 5 acrobatics, and I manage to catch him. I thought he was going to fall towards Takavir. He doesn't. He's fallen towards me, and I catch him with a strength of 18. With a strength check of 11, and eventually I put him down safely like a gentle lady. And combat ends, and he compliments me on my strength, and I tell him, no, flattery won't get you anywhere. Well, not everywhere, anyway. So, combat ends. I try to take a sample of the vines just to show to Oxglen if this is the kind of thing that might be causing trouble to the people, and maybe even just perform some alchemy on it. It's not really my specialty, but hey, you never know. Unfortunately, with a 4 survival skill, unfortunately with a survival check of 4, the samples just melt into goo. My hands are all sticky. I'm like, ugh. So I try to rub it off. It's not coming off, so I'm going to wash my hands in the water, which seems to do the job. So Rakanar cheers how he loves the forest, and Cornelius asks about him, and he says that he was born and moulded by the forest, whereas others, as our DM says, were merely adopted by it. He spent his childhood here. Cornelius asked about his family, perhaps a Mr. or Mrs. back home, and nudging and winking, huh? And his memory of family is unfortunately a blur. He only really remembers an orcish woman and a man, and the forest and the professor are his family. Takavrea attack. Nix looks over the body. Cornelius investigates with a 15. Check with the help of Takavrea. Takavrea looks, and Cornelius offers to help with an investigation check of 15 and a 4. But he gets advantage, so it's a 15. Woohoo! And finds upon the mangled body some parchment. He opens it and finds a map of the surrounding area, talking about a druidic summoning. There's discussion of damn fools, so we know that Garveld Grimhammer is the one who's responsible for this. Bloody damn fool adventurers. And dealing with magics beyond their comprehension. Yeah, again, Garveld, it's just freaks to Garveld. An apprentice aside here. Again, Garveld, being an apprentice for like an undertaker, so I like to think if he survives the Lost Mine of Phandelver, he'll work for Asket of the funeral parlour. You just Asket's caskets. You just ask it. We've got the casket. And anyway, moving swiftly on. It was an apprentice's idea, but he's only really following his master. It points to a grove where a summoning circle has seemed to have been set up. We find, as we move along, we find wooden barricades ahead, a fence of 7 feet and about 7 to 9 feet high, and we come across a camp, or what remains of it. Now, before we go here, we are looking at the river, and I made a mistake earlier saying, in the previous attempt at the session recap video, I was saying, oh, you can't cross the river. No, our DM does not say you can't cross the river. I don't know why it's like, this isn't personal. I want to say now this isn't personal. I can't stand this in Critical Role where the DM says you can certainly try. I'm like, I just want an answer. Like, give me the numbers, give me the DC, but they can't do that because that's against the narrative style they want to play. Hey, if I were I will say now, constructively, if I were the DM, I would be doing that, but bear in mind that if I were DMing the game, I'd be running a very combat-heavy tactical game. So it's like, you can know the DC to kick a door down, but again, it's like, it wouldn't be a narrative game, it would be a tactical combat skirmish game. And it wouldn't be, anywhere near the level of detail this is. So, anyway, getting back to this point that I was incorrect about before. The water is quite steep. At least the water is quite deep, rather, and it is moving quite quickly. If Rakanar wanted to try and get into the water, try and cross this river, following his nose about this smell that seems to be coming from the east, it seems to be getting stronger, over across the river, he would have, is probably going to be quite deep, maybe even too deep for him. So if he wants to try, he can do, but we decided against it. It's simply it's simply not worth the risk when there is a clear path ahead of us. So yeah, so this wooden barricade's like a palisade in front of us, and inside is a camp, or at least what remains of it. There are 6 tents, 6 smaller tents, and a hut, like a larger tent. Inside as well, there is a bonfire in the centre, and a roast pig on a spit. And inside are at least humanoids just milling about, but not really, normally as such, and almost zombie-like, but not quite. Rakanar rolls a natural 1+3 for his survival skill. Unfortunately, it's hard to tell if this smell coming from these inhabitants is the same as the one that he knew from when he smelt it at the temple. So, Tagavrea, seeing these zombie-like beings, casts his divine sense, finding no sense of undeath, fiends, celestials, or aberrations. So I'm curious as to, I wonder what type they were then. Like, I get this isn't a complaint. This isn't like, ha! I caught you out, DM. They were aberrations. No, nothing like that. Because I'm trying to think. It's like I know what they are. I guess, like, or at least what as closest to what they are from the.
Ox.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, it's interesting. In fact, they could be objects. We'll get round to why soon. So they're standing around, milling about, these inhabitants. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's about 8 of them there. One of them is a bugbear, and as we get closer, we find that they are goblins. But we're a bit too far away to really notice what's so different about them. They're sort of facing away from us. And so the party decides to sneak in. Rakanar's going to hide behind the eastern wall and get ready to leap over the fence, do some parkour shit, as I wrote in my notes, but not just yet. I'm going to stand next to Cornelius and ready my crossbow and just keep an eye on these things as to what's going to happen. Cornelius also as well standing there with a bolt thrower, getting ready to perhaps move in if necessary. Tagavrea moves towards the western side of the camp, hiding behind the nearest tent to the door in the bushes, and he. I didn't write down the stealth roll. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, sorry. So Rakanar rolls stealth 22, 19 plus 3, nice. And Tagavrea rolls with advantage. I can't remember what he had, but he had some sort of ability going on that gave him advantage, and he rolled 2 11s. The goblin closest to him doesn't seem to notice that, ironically, but the others, every other goblin here, they turn and like staring, and it's almost as in sync they're doing this. And I'm thinking, okay, is this some sort of enchantment spell? Is this worse heck dancing up a storm? You know, can I should have done a perception check to see if I can hear safety dance. Anyway. So noticing that the goblins have Tag has drawn the attention of these goblins, he walks in and throws a sack of gold into the near the fire pit, the embers going out. And he says, "Oh, you look just like the people I need. I need a group to clear out some villagers, if you know what I mean." And they don't really react to his voice, but they act to the sudden clink of a coin purse landing on the ground. And again, they all turn, like all of a sudden, like limbs sort of like clicking and creaking in all impossible ways. And they turn and reveal their true form. They have this grotesque combination of clicking and pained gurgling. And it turns out that these are the clickers from The Last of Us, or like the girl with all the gifts. Great things to see, by the way. We roll initiative, and I will say now that I will say now that I love, and this was praise that I gave before, and I have to reiterate it because it's so important to me to get this point across. I love this monster type. I really do. Like fungal zombies or like cordyceps. I love this sort of enemy, and because I'm massively into like disease and poisons and all that sort of thing. And yeah, it's so like having this monster that we're facing is just incredible. Yeah, and I like to see it because like the zombie fights in Lost Man of Phandelver, they just end because like it's a trash fight and it's pointless fighting them. Like it's trivial. Like what's the point of staying in combat when you can just roleplay as like, oh, we've just defeated them all without any problems. So like the chance to actually fight these things is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I love it, and as well, I like the idea of so yeah, so like seeing these guys is awesome. Moving on. Oh, I've just said what it was from the book. I might have to censor that bit. So, we roll initiative. Cornelius rolls a natural 20 plus 6. Rakanar rolls a natural 20 plus 3. The Goblin Team 1 rolls a 14. The Bugbear amongst them rolls a 12. Also, like, covered in fungus, mushrooms and sort of spores growing out of them. Again, it's terrifying. Rolls a 12. The Goblin Team 2 rolls 11. I roll 3. And unfortunately, Tet rolls a 2. Like I don't like rolling low, but I don't want others to roll lower than me. So it's kind of like a contradictory sort of thing there, you know. Anyway, round 0, surprise motherfuckers, and I can't get that video of surprise motherfuckers from Dexter, so I apologise for that. Rakanar rolls an acrobatics 23, 18 plus 5 to do some parkour shit into the encampment, explaining 10 feet of movement to leap from, kick from the tree over the fence, do a twirl, land, and finds himself in the encampment, looking around, trying to find targets. I think he uses the last of his movement to actually try and strike enemies. Takavria rolls 25 with his Eldritch Blast to hit, dealing 7 points of damage. He focuses the Eldritch energy, melting the goblin in front of him, like the thing from outside the research station, engulfed in flame. I love that reference. And he moves in, making himself a target for the others. Cornelius rolls a 7 on his crossbow to hit a goblin in front of him, but the bolt gets stuck in the goblin as a layer of fungus blocks it. And he also inspires me, thank you Cornelius for telling me not to miss out on all the fun. So I decide to join in round 1. Rakanar rolls to hit a goblin in front of him, dealing 23 points, rolling 23 to hit. He might as well have rolled 23 damage, and deals 22 damage to kill the goblin in front of him without any resistance, moving to another. A goblin approaches Takavria and tries to deal damage with his corrupted scimitar, rolling 19 to hit, and he does 4 points of slashing damage. The goblins attack with reckless abandon, and Tak responds with this by using his hellish rebuke and reaction to the one which struck him. A Dex 14 rolled 21. The goblin rolled 21 rather. Does 6 points of fire damage as flames erupt from underneath the goblin, which seems to growl in frustration rather than in pain. The bugbear, goes towards Rakanar and strikes true, striking the goblin next to him with a nat 1. I was like, I had to actually double check. I thought, hey, what? How did he do that? Oh, he must have rolled a nat 1. Okay. I roll with my crossbow, and I sadly roll yet another 9. And but with Cornelius Bardic Inspiration, I roll 3, and still miss. The shot was possible, as our DM says, but I didn't make it. And I will say this: I do like that our DM is actually saying that if you want to use your Bardic Inspiration, you can hit. It's kind of one of those things where it's like the shield spell that gives you like a +5 to your AC. It's like if you don't know what the to hit roll is, you don't know if you should use a shield or not. So I've seen this. It's something I've seen on Reddit anyway. It doesn't really happen with RDM, so that's good. So where am I? Oh yes, yeah, the shot was possible, but I didn't make it. A shroom bursts out of the goblin's head, and it deflects or absorbs the blow fully. defensively. Takavrea rolls a 15 with his Warhammer to crumble the goblin in front of him, causing dust to erupt from its corpse with 12 max damage from a single strike of his single-handed Warhammer. Cornelius uses Dissonant Whispers, I swear that's a song, requiring a 14 wisdom saving throw, which succeeds, but it still takes half damage from the second level. Apparently the bugbear isn't deaf, interestingly enough, because I look up the stat block, because hang on, is this thing deaf? Well, apparently not, okay. And he takes 9 psychic damage. I thought it was quite good. Like without looking, I would have thought, no, it's deaf and it doesn't work, but no, good on our DM for actually checking. So round 2, Rakanar slams the axe down into the ground, requiring a Constitution 13 saving throw from all the goblins and hobgoblins around him, or rather, the hobgoblin and goblin. Hobgoblin? I meant to say bugbear. The goblin and bugbear around him. He rolls 3 damage to the goblin, but the bugbear is seemingly unfazed as it rolls a Constitution saving throw high enough. He rolls 23 to hit with his longsword, dealing 6 damage plus an additional 6 from the radiant damage. Most disturbingly, it does not grunt in pain. The goblin on attack uses an uncharacteristically fast strike to hit him, dealing what was the word, like, not inconceivable, like unpermissible. I can't remember. I love the word, but I didn't write it down because I didn't know how to spell it. He uses a characteristic fast strike to basically just shiv him, dealing damage with his scimitar. The bugbear rolls to hit Rakanar, who is raging, dealing only 8 points of damage. The Morningstar strikes his sternum, but his rage fortifies him against the blow. I shoot the goblin attacking Takavrea for 19 and hit him for 7 damage. No nonsense, just knock him flat on his back and move. You know what, I don't know why I was so annoyed at having rolled in my previous attempt at this session recap video, because I killed about 2 things. No, I killed 3 things in this video. That's more than I kill in any other session. What am I complaining about? Jesus Christ. See, it's one thing to have complaints. It's another to actually have them be incorrect. You know? Oh god, it would help if they were right. Moving on. So Takavrea moves forward toward Rakanar and strikes the goblin with an Eldritch Blast for 20, rolling 2 damage, charring the fungus as it causes wisps of smoke to emanate from it. Cornelius tries to hit with his bolt thrower, missing the bugbear but hitting the pig on the spit. But he does pull back some pork with him with the fishing reel extension. I am told that the extension is badass by Cornelius player, so thank you, Cornelius. It's very much appreciated. In the third round of combat, Rakanar switches to his great axe and causes the radiant damage to hit the goblin for 4 damage, killing it. But unfortunately, he rolls an 8 to miss the bugbear. I shoot but roll a nat 1 to hit Rakanar for 3 damage. And I use my I use my bonus action to apologize. I'm so sorry. And it's this is the 3rd time I've hit Rakanar with a weapon of some sort. I've slashed him with my scimitar, I've hit him with my truncheon, I've I completely unfazed him a lot of the time, and now he's starting to wonder what happened, what's going on with his allies. So anyway, Takavrea rolls Toll the Dead, Wisdom 14 upon the bugbear, and it takes 3 damage, causing what isn't its own life force to be drawn from within it. Cornelius pulls out his dagger, runs across the camp to strike the bugbear, screaming to Rakanar, "Leave some for me!" And he aims for the leg, rolling a nat 1. He stumbles, stabbing Rakanar in the leg, who only fortunately takes 1 damage. And the damage can't be less than 1. So he says, "Oh no, lad, I'm so sorry," and he hides behind him and casts a healing word, restoring 8 HP, which I think is the maximum healing word can do, because it's a 1d4 plus his charisma mod, which I think is +4. So yeah, it's pretty good. +4s all around, it seems. On the final combat round, Rakanar once again gets that Is doing quite well in this session, getting the killing blows and whatnot. And he rolls a 23 to hit and does 10 points of damage to the bugbear. He strikes for the upper thigh as it kneels, and he lops its head off. And instead of blood, dust and fungus eject from the neck hole. Tack heals himself up for 8 with his cure wounds. Rakanar returns my Bolt and Cornelius dagger. And so we decide now that we're going to have a brief respite and then look inside the tent.
I'm over the River Cock on our own bridge!
44 minutes in, but I'm still having a much better time. This video is going to be a pain to edit. In fact, is it? No, it's not. It's going to be much easier because I'm having much more fun. So Cornelius looks inside the tent, seeing bits of broken bric-a-brac and bed frames. Let's go with the alliteration. And busted bread frames and bed knobs and broomsticks. Why not? And he sort of looks around and says, "Anyone home?" A knock knock, and nothing answers him. He offers to Tack to use his fire breath to look inside, and he says, "No, I've got dark vision. I'll have a look." So Cornelius rolls a 13 and 10 to look in the hut, but he sees nothing new, as he can't see in the dark. Tack rolls 2 and 15 with Cornelius' assistance to look about, and finds a single potion of healing. He also finds a quiver on the ground consisting of 40 arrows, as well as a serviceable short bow. There's also 32 gold pieces scattered around. And just as he's about to turn, having collected all the loot, his foot clinks against something, finding underneath the bed a small metal box. Inside the box are 3 potions of healing and some kind of club. The club hums with magic. Cornelius and I get a potion of healing, while Tack gets 2. And he hands me the club, noting that I've used the truncheon and wondering if I like it. And I say, yeah, I'd very much appreciate it. I like it. Like, in RPGs, I sort of make a point of having, like, a blunt weapon and, like, a main weapon. Like, a club is always useful against undead, like skeletons and whatnot, because, like, skeletons especially, because it's, like, they're all bone. You've got no internal organs to stab at. I made this point before. So, like, you need, like, blunt force trauma to break them down and, like, separate all the magic that keeps them together. I used to like when video game RPGs did that as well. Oblivion made a point of saying, like, in the loading screens, by the way, you want to hit skeletons with this, or zombies with this, because of this and the other. So, Rakanar rolls another natural 20 plus 1 to perceive the smell. And it's now a much more noxious fume, but only a slight hint comes from beyond the river, and he explains what he smelled. With a survival check of 21, he isn't sure how similar it is without performing an autopsy on one of the goblins. So I roll a 5 in medicine. My investigation skill would have been too high to probably give too much away, so we went for medicine to find out if the affliction is biological or arcane in nature, but it's hard to tell, especially when I'm standing back, not really wanting to touch the goblins as such. I'm sort of relying on my innate rock gnome magic to tell me if this is arcane or mundane. So I don't really glean any other information. Tack takes the Morning Star from the goblin, from the bugbear. This is the second time now I've got the name wrong. The hobgoblin, the bugbear. Tack. I'm determined to get the sentence right. Tack takes the Morning Star from the bugbear and washes it in the water to the east. Right, finally got there in the end. Cornelius like goes up to Tack and Freya, like feeling a sense of socializing all of a sudden, and like he's got his hands on his waist and he's just like swinging to and fro from the balls of his heels like an impressed father, saying, "No stone left unturned, eh lad?" It took me ages to get. I still got that sentence wrong. I used to say like, "No stone left untoned, eh lad?" Christ. Shows how much effort I was putting in. And Tack makes a mental note of him acting strange. Tack, not really appreciating this, he rolls an intimidation check to death stare Cornelius. A pretty impressive roll. And Cornelius, with a charisma save of 23, is completely oblivious to attacks. Just a sheer, unfettered, unfiltered aggravation. Cornelius suggests doing some fishing, but I recommend against it, having seen what this fungus has done to the goblins. God knows what it's done to the fish here, if there even are any fish. I don't really know much about like freshwater versus saltwater fish and all that sort of business, so yeah. So, Tack made some mental note of him acting strange. Tack asks if he can perceive something different in Cornelius, and we're asked by our DM to deafen ourselves as the DM talks to Cornelius' player. Ooh, very fancy indeed. I like these moments. There was one moment in, for those who haven't seen the video, the Debt to a Friend group haven't seen the video, there was an adventure called the Sword of the Ember Knight, where our current DM basically asked us to deafen ourselves or leave the chat channel while they talked to the new player who joined our group. And it was basically just like a bluff saying, hey, like, you know, how are you finding the game so far? You alright? Yeah, good. There's nothing in this box, by the way. We're just having a casual chat and just increasing, just doing some intrigue. It reminds me of something that Spoony, the counter monkey, does. And he just rolls his dice idly and goes, yeah, that's interesting, and rolls it again just to get his players getting a move on. Fortunately, this group doesn't really need much of that. We don't take 3 hours to decide on a plan of action, so that's good. It didn't work out in my favour this time, though. I thought we were going to Oxglen, and yeah, something was supposed to happen there, but didn't, and because and the reason why I think I said earlier in the video that we'd gone against Rakanar's wishes once already, like on the Facebook chat, so it's only fair that we do something that he wants to do by going to the forest. But that's okay. So anyway, we're invited back into the chat, and we are asked, so we're invited back to the chat, and we're told that he's in some sense of religious euphoria. Now, I'd made a slight joke about this. It was like half serious, I'll say, about I sure hope this doesn't interfere with my plans to multiclass into cleric of the Forge domain. But that was one of the many idle thoughts I'd had to myself that I hadn't communicated to my DM, so that caused a bit of frustration. So, to be clear, it is a possibility, but I'm not going to take that away from Cornelius. If Cornelius wants to be a cleric of any domain, even of the Forge domain, I'm fine with that. Bearing in mind as well, we've already got 2 blacksmith characters. You know, I don't need to be a Forge cleric, you know. And we've talked about magic as well. And my character does prefer the mundane to say they're an artificer. They really do want to be like the gunslinger fighter, you know, really focus on the mundane, but have the artificer sort of stats. So moving on. Noting Cornelius' religious euphoria, there is a strong current in the river where there's a bridge towards the east that has broken off, and I'm offered to be thrown across the rope as with some rope as a tether, and it's going to be difficult and it's going to be risky. If I get over, fine. If I don't, I'm going to go down the river, and I might end up taking other people with me, so it's not a good idea. So I suggest making a raft. Rakanar is tall, but he might not be tall enough to wade through the river. We can certainly try, but again, it's that risk, because if he goes down, someone's got to bring him up, and we can't, Takavir is the only one who can, and that's going to be really difficult in armor, which I don't think it's written actually, armor affects movement in water. I'm not sure, but I don't know. What are the books now? So Takavir starts getting rid of some of the bodies, and he throws the bugbear into the water. But as he tries to, it's not that he doesn't have the strength to do it; it's how he does it. And as he's grabbing it in a certain way, the bugbear just disintegrates into dust and spores. All of the life force that was in it, all the metabolic structure has just disintegrated into the ether. And so Cornelius suggests we build a 50-foot bridge. And I'm reminded of the Top Gear episode, the Burma special, where the boys the boys build a bridge over the River Cock. Oh dear. And it goes. I wish it went as well, but the roles tell the story, and you know what? In retrospect, it's really funny. Cornelius says that with the Commissar's intelligence, the Rakanar attack strengths, and Cornelius' performance, we can achieve anything. Eventually. He's told to put his drum away by attack, being mistaken as an invitation to drum away! And so, our DM... And I don't give enough credit for this. I didn't give enough credit for this before. I think it's fair that I have to roll for this. We must roll for intelligence, sleight of hand, strength, and wisdom. And we decide amongst ourselves we give about 2-3 minutes to this. More time than was, I think, deserved, given how impromptu this was. Now, DM did look up rules on how to build a bridge. Couldn't find anything, so they rolled with it. And hey, fair enough. That's good. That's what I like about the sessions. That if it takes too long to look something up, if we start arguing about rules, we roll with it and we talk about it at the end of the session. And that's what I should have done before. So, Rakanar, with his strength roll of 9, he salvages enough wood to put the bridge together, at least to make the bridge. I, with an intelligence roll of 6, and I really was hoping in the session recap afterwards, I was this should have required ability scores, not ability score modifiers, right? But you know what? I'll say I redact that by saying no. That's what the rolls are for. I do think that D&D should get rid of ability scores in full because the modifiers are what count. But yeah, it's like, so I thought, and you know, I may be an artificer, but I'm not a woodworker. You know, I'm not in construction. I'm in, I didn't help build the airship. I'm built. I make things out of metal, and it's usually little things, or other people build things and I repair them, for instance. So anyway, I roll a 6 intelligence, and there's some strange design choices, but I insist it'll work. Cornelius gets the rope together, and with a 19 sleight of hand, he ties it all together phenomenally well. And Takavrea, with the most important roll of all, he rolls a 19 wisdom as he taps the wrap-like structure with his foot, and it collapses. 6 hours have passed, and we feel somewhat defeated. And our DM, I did talk to our DM about this. I said, look, should we have exhaustion after that? And they said, you know what? No, I'm going to be fair on you guys, because you've spent a lot of time. It was a really creative idea. I'm going to be fair. No, you don't suffer exhaustion, and there's still some more of the session to do. So I thought, okay, that's good. Like I said, I think it would have deserved exhaustion, but again, I'm a hard ass. I would be really spiteful when it comes to creativity, basically. Definitely from the Dishonored school of game design. Or rather, no, what people think Dishonored is about, and punishing players and whatnot. Except no, I would punish people for creativity. Moving on. So yeah, we feel somewhat defeated, and I think our humiliating defeat is enough. We don't really need exhaustion on top of that. So we continue to make our way towards the northwest passage, which we should have explored earlier, because what do we come across? We come across a bridge. A working bridge. And where does it take us, children? It takes us around the river bend, where the river originates. So Cornelius and I I'm pretty exasperated at this point, and I keep it to myself. And Cornelius and I roleplay, and he asks, so I've asked Rakanar and Takavir about their lives, but what about you, Commissar? And so I tell him about my character's mother and father. She is her mother is Baboomshka Lostgaz, who is mother and a baker in Trummuth, who hopefully hasn't caused any fatalities with her famous boom bread, with the secret ingredient of black powder. That 9 out of 10 dentists recommend, so they can keep making money off it. I must ask if Ostergarth has universal healthcare. And of course, her long-suffering husband, Baboomshka's long-suffering husband, Ivo Lostcows, and if you know who the guy is who I've chosen to portray Ivo, I think that sort of like suits Katyusha's rather impish smile and constant raised eyebrow and surprise. And I also talk about Rigsby as well. He tries to. Cornelius thought that Rigsby was like a relative or a lover, and Rigsby is my robotic industrial ground-shaping beast, an invention that I made for the professor. To basically to make some money and also gain some favour with someone who is quite big in court. Being a commissar and having friends in court is an incredible boon. So Cornelius, misunderstanding who Rigsby is, says, "Oh, look, a bridge! Thank God, Malil!" And we have a look. So I suggest that as the lightest character, not really with the amount of pack I'm carrying, I think, decide that I'm going to walk across the bridge. And I just tap away at my right button on my keyboard and just see if anything happens. And no, seems perfectly fine. The bridge is perfectly secure, at least for a small creature such as myself, carrying a fair bit of weight that's only increasing. I desperately need Rigsby and the saddlebags just to carry this stuff. I don't really want to ask Rakanar. I think it's unfair. Like he's already let me use his alchemy jug. Bless him. He's given me the decanter of endless water. I don't want to take his. I mean, I do want to take his bag of holding off him because I'm greedy like that. But I'll give him all the basic magic items, like the club. You can have the club, yeah, sure. But the decanter, no. Oh, that could come in handy one day. I could use that. So yeah, so anyway, so as the party is now getting on this bridge, and it's okay, everything's fine, we can cross and we can get on this island. We arrive upon this island that is marshy and murky, and it smells. It smells really bad. It smells of rotted plant life. It smells of decaying trees. There's nothing on this island seems to have survived, contrary to the grassland around it. And it's and Rakanar especially feels this. With a perception of 20, it's almost overpowering. Like, if it weren't for his his half-orc bulk and his ability to survive in the wilds, he would be he would be overwhelmed by this. Takavir uses his divine sense to detect no undeath, fiendish, I've said aberrational, but I don't know if that's even a word, or celestial presence. And he's like, I like this ability will come in use one day, I swear. And and here's me thinking as a grave cleric, yeah, maybe, maybe not. No, I hope it does, because it's awesome. Like, it's such a rewarding feeling when you use that ability, and it's even better when you're a cleric of the grave who has an even worse version of the paladin's divine sense, because that only detects undead, and I don't think they get even as many uses of it either. So yeah, if you're a paladin, flaunt it while you got it. So I so yeah, so I should have explained as well that before we get onto the island, I have a rope tied around me by Cornelius, and he rolls a five sleight of hand. It looks decent enough, and he says, "Oh, I do this all the time." And I ask him what kind of work he was in again, and he says, "Not the rope tying business." And I'm reminded of the scene in The Wire where McNulty says, like, it's a Baltimore knot. What's a Baltimore knot? I don't know, but it changes every time. And yeah, so I end up tying the knot around the tree that Tack's holding on, the rope that Tack's holding onto. So the guys want to sort of like use it as like a rail to go along, walking along the bridge. They can do. So. Yeah, so we all make it onto the island and ominous music starts playing. I tie a knot with a sleight of hand check of 12 around the tree trunk. Seems fine. And we all make it into the centre just fine. There's a dead tree, there's dead trees and a pool of water, so we can't see into it just yet. And Rakanar rolls a 20 plus 1, to smell the putrid water from the pond in front of him in the centre of this island. He noticed something more than the rest of us, and it's that the water and the filth and the putrid, what's the word I'm looking for? There's something in the brackish. That's it. Like this brackish liquid is like seeping its way from underneath the island into the river itself, bubbling up towards the south. I've just made that bit up. Go with it. And something is starting to rise out of the pond, and what initially looks to be like a draconic visage is a giant dragon-like creature rising from the pond. It's more gaping in front of Rakanar, and something is not right as this dragon skull now has a body, and the body is that of a giant bone blight. Roll initiative.
You have two choices: to hide in England or be a hero in Spain. I shall help you to be a hero. We had a skirmish with the French today. Tomorrow we shall have a battle. You will be the first to see a French column, sir. It is not a pretty sight. What you do then, sir, is up to you. Good morning.
So, Takavria rolls 20, Commissar Katusha Lostgaus rolls 18.1, the Bone Blight rolls 18, Rakanar rolls 13. I finally come second in the initiative, and I don't know what to do with it. Rakanar rolls 13, and Cornelius, with the alert feat, rolls 11. The Bone Blight makes an attack of opportunity to strike to Rakanar under the waves and hits with 24, causing him to take 11 points of bludgeoning damage as one of the tentacles slams him and constricts, the thorns biting into his legs, into his body, causing him a further 2 points of damage. And he rolls a nat 1 to save versus being pulled underneath the water. Cornelius uses Dissonant Whispers on the BB, rolling 15 psychic damage. Like, I know that in Mordenkainen's multiverse of monsters, like, more enemies are becoming resistant to force damage, which I think also screws with barbarians as well at some stage, but I think that's a certain subclass. I think Rakanar's going to be okay. But psychic damage I don't think has had any resistance improvements, so that's good. I love psychic damage. Like, I'm not going to go into the whole Psionics thing from AD&D, but yeah, it's interesting. Definitely, if you're interested in like psychic damage, look up the history of Psionics in AD&D. It's phenomenal reading. Makes you appreciate like how easy it is to like get the classes you have now. I'll do a video on bards one day, likely. Moving on, yeah. So he uses his unsettling words bonus action and yells an insult at the at this Bone Blight. I guess you're the mother of all these overgrown weeds. Round 1 begins, and on top of this unsettling words, Tack lobs a hex upon the Bone Blight to target his strength. He uses his Warhammer to roll 19, doing 13 damage, bludgeoning plus hex necrotic damage, as well as 6 smite damage. And like, to cause our DM so much suffering, I decided, you know what, I'm going to just pile on a load more conditions onto this creature. Let's just keep making our DMs like that. So I use a flare shot, a reflavoured fairy fire, and with the dexterity, with this creature's dexterity modifier, it does not save versus the effect. So all all attack rolls against it are taken with advantage, but it is concentration. So I have to work a bit on concentrating. In fact, I think I even made a little bit of a boo-boo later. I will go into that very soon, if I remember. The Bone Blight uses a lair action with its skull mask to make a harrowing shriek. Shambling forms exit the water, and these are Blightlings. The Blightlings roll a natural 1 for their initiative, thank God for that. The Bone Blight then resumes its turn to make a tentacle attack, rolling 18 to slap Rakanar with a tentacle, wrapping around him. Rolling to hit Tack. Rakanar wraps around Tack, and with disadvantage on its strength check, Tack rolls 21 concentration to concentrate the spell, but it rolls 4, 2 plus 2, to be restrained by the Blight, pulled underwater. It then bites Tack, rolling 21 to hit, dealing 13 points of piercing damage. Tack is now considered poisoned, as he only rolls 10 for his con save, giving disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Rakanar rolls a strength saving throw to break out of the restrained tentacles with 23, and he moves to the bank, and he's raging, finally free of the grasp and out of the water. So Cornelius then takes an attack of opportunity to run away from the Blightling, vine-like arms smacking the ground, the bird left behind with a lethargic club. He runs to the rest of the group, humming and singing to himself and doing a healing word on Tack, saying, "Give him a taste of your hammer!" Though Tack doesn't hear much, besides a very impressive impression of by RDM, he is rolled. He's healed for 5 points of healing. So Rakanar's Blightling tries to swipe and fails. 1 hits me for 13, but I use my heightened reflexes, a reflavoured shield spell, to deftly dodge out of the way. Now I think my Fairy Fire should have been cancelled at that point, because I used a spell, and I don't think you can use a spell and concentrate at the same time, unless it's like you can't cast another concentration spell without breaking concentration on the former. But I'll keep that in mind in future. I will look that up. The PHB is incredibly badly written when it comes to spells. It's atrocious when it comes to describing things. Like, the ability to like cast 2 spells at once, or like a spell and a cantrip, I don't think is even in there. So, that's not particularly helpful. Moving on. Rakanar's Blightling tries to swipe and fails. 1 hits me for 13. Oh yeah, I've already done that. Cornelius' Blight attacks him for 14 and deals 4 damage. In the second round of combat, Takavria rolls 2d4 plus 2, 5 for his potion of healing underwater as a bonus action, and rolls his Warhammer. 18 to hit and does 14 damage. The hammer strikes 2, revealing the nervous system by the lightning running through the Bone Blight. His poison effect as well wears off. I disengage and move 25 feet, and with a natural 2, the Bone Blight tries to bite Tack but fails to hit, and bites Rakanar in frustration with a 25 to hit, but he only takes 4 damage, 4 points of damage, rage reduction induced. He must also make a con save, rolling 13, which just fails as he feels the poison enter his bloodstream. Rakanar is poisoned, as I've put in my notes there. Rex swings with his great axe to roll 18 to hit and does 13 slashing damage and radiant combined damage. The flare shot highlights one of the weak spots of the bone plate, and he strikes true, dealing a hefty amount of damage. Cornelius disengages and attracts the attention of the Blightlings. "Come on, you ugly bushers, follow me!" And he runs to the water's edge, firing his crossbow to draw their attention. Without knowing what it is, he suddenly like makes a motion and casts a Shield of Faith upon Rakanar. RDM says it's Bone Blighting time, as the Blightlings follow the retracting bolt caused by the Bolt Thrower, and Rakanar takes an attack of opportunity. He rolls 25 to hit with his Great Axe and does 18 total damage. Plus another 2, Rakanar. He savages the Blightling synapses with a mighty crump, but it's still not yet killed. It takes a slam attack on Cornelius, damaging him for 11. He takes 4 points of bludgeoning damage. Another Blightning makes its way to Rakanar, rolls 18. He takes 5 points of bludgeoning damage as it slams down into him. The last Blightling charges for me and hits me for 17 points of damage. This is where I had something of an this was basically like the trigger for an existential crisis that I had during the previous session recap, and I'm not going to dwell on this point because it's perfectly reasonable for me to say that, like, you know, I asked for this. You know, I did say for my DM to not pull punches. You know, and this thing rolled really well, and yeah, I'll take that. I have to take that. I can't say, "Oh, but," and then complain about it one other time. No, I've got to take it, and I will. So 17 points of damage. And it's also made me think as well, like, you know, try and play a bit smarter, John. You know, don't try and be a bit more creative. Don't just look at what the book says. Try and use some initiative and figure things out on your own. It is a more narrative-focused game. Use that freedom and work with it. So in the third round of combat, Takafria uses his Hexblade's Curse on the Bone Blight, followed by a 20 to hit with his Warhammer, doing another 14 damage to the beastie. The hammer vibrates as shadowy energy coils around the Bone Blight, lightning bellowing out from the hammer to wound it considerably. I use my scimitar to strike the Blightling in front of me, dealing only 3 slashing damage. The Blight tries to use a tentacle attack to hit Rakanar, but it misses. It bites, but its jaws only make it around the Shield of Faith doming around him. Both attacks, he attacks twice, and both attacks roll 16. Rakanar does 5 damage with his Great Axe, turning into a longsword, the radiant damage burning its photosynthesizing organs. He rolls 25 to hit and does 13 damage. These guys do not accept anything less than double digits today. So Cornelius uses his Dissonant Whispers on the Blightling in front of him, and it fails at save, taking 12 psychic damage. It clicks and creaks unnaturally and falls to the ground, twisted and broken. He uses his bonus action to inspire me. Thank you. The next 2 Blightlings miss their attacks. On the 4th round, Takavrea uses bonus action to channel Divinity Vow of Enmity, granting him advantage on attack rolls. 18 to hit and 15 damage total. He kills the Bone Blight by striking it where he thinks the ribcage would be, lightning crackling from his Warhammer and illuminating it from within, its veins lighting up and slightly scorching it. He also gets 5 HP back from the Hexblade's Curse kill effect. You know, I've always looked at that and thought that's not really a great buff. You know, like, you apply this curse and you've got to kill the thing to get the HP back. And then until you actually get it, it's like, you know what, I really need that 5 HP, you know, and you'll take it. So that's quite good. The Bone Blight slumps to the ground, and so we're still in combat though. We've still got the Blightlings to face. I roll a 10 for my potion of healing, and I slash the Blightling scimitar for 7 damage, downing this potion. Rakanar swings at the Blightling with his longsword, rolling 17 to hit and 14 damage. The Blightling staggers back as its arm falls off, but it makes a hissing sound as its organs knot together to create another arm. Cornelius uses his reel to shoot the Blightling on me and pulls its leg with a natural 20 plus 2, causing the Blightling to be lured towards him. It's only because he rolled a natural 20 that our DM allowed this, because it was supposed to be a flavour thing. But hey, and he started like rapidly pulling the wheel, trying to trigger an attack of opportunity from me. And I roll a 12 and just miss, even with Bardic Inspiration. Cornelius is attacked by his Blightling and hits, rolling requiring a con save of 18 to maintain concentration on his Shield of Faith. The Blightning then strikes Rakanar with 11 missing. In the 5th and final round of combat for the session, Takavrea launches an Eldritch Blast to hit Cornelius Blightling and vaporizes it for 10 damage. He then approaches the next one. I run to the north, fleeing, and our DM says, "Fleeing, Commissar? You mean withdrawing to a more tactical location?" I said, "Yes, I'm again that tactical withdrawal." And I shoot the Blightling for 9 damage. Rakanar rolls 25 to hit and destroys it with 12 damage. He stabs the heart area, or where he thinks the heart would be, on like a human being, for instance, of the Blightling, and it just slumps to the ground dead when he pulls the blade out. Combat ends. I'm not going to go into... I've basically resolved the sort of like complaints I had here of like my character has performed an act of cowardice, which is completely against the character. So what does she do? That's been resolved. She will have a Rigsby in some form or another in the next session, which is I'm pretty pleased about. But yeah, I could have gone about asking for it better and making a point of saying to the party, no, I need Rigsby to do my thing. I can't keep doing side quests for for this when I'm missing my class feature. So yeah, that's sorted. So combat ends and the waters now slowly but surely begin to clear. What appears to be a backpack rises to the surface, and not realizing how deep the water was, I volunteer to swim to the backpack, rolling 16 athletics, one of the few impressive rolls that I make, and swim and bring it back to the party. The contents are as follows: 2 vials of antitoxin, a single potion of healing, an efficient quiver, which can hold up to 60 arrows, bolts or similar objects, and up to 18 javelins or similar objects, or 8 bows, quarterstaves or spears. The efficient quiver having an extra dimensional space like a bag of holding. And a cloak of elven kind, which from what I remember gives advantage on stealth checks. Dexterity stealth checks, but it cannot be used with the boots of elven kind as far as I'm aware. Takavrea wonders how much the dragon skull would go for, and he doesn't really know. He can say that it's bigger than Rakanar, so there may be some collector who wants like a full-size dragon skull. It might be like a like an adult dragon, maybe. But it won't fit in the bag of holding, and all we really know is like we were given the stats and told like it weighs 250 pounds if you want it. So Takavrea is deciding that he's not going to try and put it on his head and run around. Decides he's going to make a silent prayer in respect to the dragon. So Rakanar notices now that the water smells better, but there is still something coming from the other side of the river, a bridge leading to the east, with a 20 perception. Again, really, really good rolls for these, especially the ones that are driving the story. It still smells pestilent, and while it's different, it's difficult to put down. Again, it's hard to know exactly what it is. It's similar to the goblinoids that were affected by the fungus, but now it's sharper. So we decide that rather than press on, we can get our spell slots back, and so we decide to go back to camp. Takavrea cooks the pork on the spit with 3 fire breath weapon damage, burning whatever microbacteria may or may not be in it, at least that he knows of. I really should have done something about that, like maybe done an investigation check and like use my cook's utensils proficiency to see if there's like if I knew how well it was cooked. But now he seems to cook it quite well. That's good. He's just tucking in while the rest of us just nibble on some rations, which is a point I must mark those off. Cornelius takes the first watch of the north westernmost passage back at the camp, and we all hear the sound of a beast, a very large, very angry beast. I decide to set up an alarm spell as a ritual by the southern passage where we came from to enter the camp and meet the goblins. And that is where we begin to wrap up the session. Cornelius contemplates his shield of faith. Was it a force of good or bad? He rolls a charisma check to see if he can get in touch with the divine and figure out where it came from. But unfortunately, a natural 1, even with a +5, tells him he just simply finishes his thoughts, feeling nothing else happen. Tekavrea decides to do the same. He consults the divine with a 22 charisma this time. As he concentrates on the hammer, the sound of wind and leaves and birds and trees grows dim, and he hears the familiar grumble of thunder off in the distance. Part of him, with a rational mind, says that this doesn't make sense, there's not a cloud in the sky, but before he can really comprehend his rationality, he hears a voice booming through the air.
My boom gives you power, but remember our deal. Forge, turn me.
The DM rolls the end credits music, which unfortunately I can't use on the session recap videos because they get flagged, and I don't want advertisements showing up on these. I don't make money, and I don't want these companies making money off me not making any money. So yeah, if that happens, copyright deadlock, that sort of thing. Make companies fight over who gets the money from this video. So yeah, and he tells us that I'm sure that the apprentice in the note earlier will probably survive another 8 hours as we're snoozing. So that is session 5, This Land of Vine, and we went a bit over time, but we really wanted to wrap up at a good point. I was hoping that we might actually get this combat done before, or like, I think we're actually going over time when the combat with the Bone Blight began, but we were so thoroughly enjoying ourselves that we thought, no, we've got to see this through. We want to end at a good point, because this might be the last session in a week or two's time. So yeah, so it's been phenomenal, and I really wish I hadn't dwelled on that point earlier and caused upset for my doing, because that wasn't right. And it's a shame that like some good ideas have now had to be dismissed because of my early attitude and you know, just trying to get the game moving, get like my class feature and whatnot. But yeah, still my conduct earlier was not appropriate, and yeah, like sort of being contrarian with feedback as well ain't good. Like, if I'm going to criticize something, I need to be consistent with it. That's something that I say in all discussion, really, that I have. I'm a frequent Johnny forum goer, and yeah, to not like have that consistent feedback is not good. And yeah, I need to tone down the negativity, because like my DM was right. Like, okay, you DM, and I was like, no, I couldn't begin to do that. Like. And as well, I have to say that the game is phenomenal, bearing in mind as well the level of experience that our DM has. They've only been doing this for a couple of months, and this is their first campaign. The most they've done before in terms of DMing is one-shots, and so like learning through experience rather than just watching videos and like relying on like Matt Mercer. Like watching Critical Role to tell him how to play the game and whatnot. So he's done phenomenal work. I don't want that understated, but I hope that yeah, this will be water under the bridge that is now floating all the way down the river. I would like to hope that in his in-person game, like when the characters reach that path, they might just see like some fragments of the bridge just going down, and perhaps the rope and the hydroplanes and whatnot. So yeah. But yeah, it was a phenomenal session as always, and yeah, despite my bitterness in the session recap that no one else will be seeing, that one has been deleted. So yeah. So thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. Ta-ta for now, and once again, looking forward to the next session. And yeah, ta-ta for now.
Major Lennox answer with his life, as you should have done if you had any sense of honor.